Hi, it's Kelly with citruscycles.ca. I'm here with the KES, a compact folding e-bike, custom made in Germany by Velo de Ville. In this video, I'm going to talk about why you might want a folding bike, and why, even if you don't need a folding bike, why you just might want this one. Because I'll share what I love about riding this bike, why we really like Velo de Ville, and then I'll do a test ride and show you how much fun it is to ride. This video is going to be fairly long, so I'll do a quick summary to start, but feel free to skip around or jump to the ride test where I give you my own impressions as I ride the bike. If you are located in Canada, you can find all the details on our website at citruscycles.ca. There you'll find pricing. You can order online for shipping within Canada, schedule an appointment to come try it out yourself here in Chemainus, or reach out with questions. If you are not located in Canada, please contact Velo de Ville directly, as we won't be able to assist you. So why might you like a folding bike? Well, a folding bike takes up less room, so you can easily transport it in your car, RV, boat, or a plane. And it easily stores inside at home or at work. It also takes up less room on the road, making it easy to maneuver and get into tight spots. It easily and comfortably fits multiple riders under 5 feet and over 6 feet, and shorter riders often love feeling closer to the ground because of these 20-inch tires. It also folds really easily and has these really cool wheels that you can use for when you're transporting it when it's folded. And I'll demonstrate folding and unfolding for you. So folding the KES or KEB is really straightforward. I'm going to use the transport wheels here. It's just like a double leg kickstand, really. Open that up. That way the bike is nicely balanced on those. Now I should mention, normally when I fold the bike, I'm folding it near where I'm going to put it in. So I probably could take these off. The benefit of taking that off would give you a little bit more ground clearance if you're doing a lot of off-road riding, and this is a little bit heavy, so taking that off is going to help reduce the weight. On the other hand, it's really convenient being able to wheel the bike around once it's folded, so you may want to leave that on. Next, we'll fold in the pedals, so we just pull on the tab here, flip up. Really easy to do that as well. Take the kickstand off now that I've got those transport wheels deployed there. Next over here, we've got this safety latch, so we're going to open up the safety latch. While we're pulling that, then we're going to open up the lever. That is going to open up the frame for us to fold. And we're just going to bring it front end back here. You'll notice that there's a magnet down there, and that quick release is actually magnetized. So it's going to click in just like that. Next, we can put the handlebars down by opening up the lever here. Those are going to drop down. On the premium model, we have the little tab here that allows us to pull up and then push the handlebars so that they are parallel to the frame. Then we close that up and we're all set. Now I can wheel it around to wherever I need to take it to secure it. I should mention there's a little magnet in there that's going to hold the lever or the release for the hinge there in place for us. So what do I love about this Velo de Ville folder compared to other folding bikes? Interestingly, when you compare it to other folding bikes, such as the Vectron here, you can see that Velo de Ville prioritized comfort, ease of use, stability, and reliability over size and weight. Obviously, the Turn Vectron here folds up smaller than the Velo de Ville. Interestingly, though, neither of these bikes will fit in the trunk of my wife's Beetle, but both will fit in the back seat. So even though it isn't as small as other folding bikes, it may not need to be. As long as it's small enough to transport or bring inside, you may prefer the benefits that come with it compared to other folding bikes. For example, it's a step-through that still has a very sturdy frame, making the bike easy to get on and off, and it's incredibly stable. A real joy to ride, as you'll see from the test ride review. When you compare that to other folding bikes such as the Vectron here, you'll notice it's not a step-through, and it's actually quite a bit higher and more difficult to get on and off than the step-through on the Velo de Ville here. It also has height adjustable handlebars. So you can see on the orange one here, we're all the way up, on the blue one all the way down, so there's quite a height difference available there, which is really nice. A lot of folding bikes typically don't have a height adjustment. You'll notice that the vector on here is quite a bit lower in terms of the overall height that's available, and the adjustment is simply changing the angle, which at the same time adjusts the height. Here we can actually independently adjust the height and the angle, which we really like, having to dial in the comfort and the fit for you. We also have these very comfortable ergon grips and a comfortable saddle. It's easy to use and reliable with very little maintenance, with an internally geared hub that allows you to shift while you're stopped and not worry about your gears not working correctly, or the derailleur getting knocked, or things not shifting when they're supposed to. With the internally geared hub here, I can shift while I'm stopped, which is brilliant, and it's not going to go out of adjustment. Very little maintenance is required, and it's just so easy to use. It's not hanging low to the ground like a derailleur would be on a 20-inch bike. You can see that's quite a bit low to the ground, and it tends to pick up a lot of dirt and get knocked around when you fold it up, and so the gears go out of adjustment. The internally geared hub, we don't have that problem. So yes, it's a bit heavier, but the highly puncture resistant tires, the heavy duty e-bike tires, and the frame lock, built-in key-like to the battery, the little carrying handle here, the sturdy frame, all those things make it worthwhile. Unlike a lot of other folding bikes in the market, you also get a mid-drive motor from either Bosch or Shimano, which means it's reliable, easily serviced at almost every bike shop, and we know we can get replacement batteries well into the future. In a few minutes, I'm going to go through all the details on this bike and show you all of the features. Before I do that, I want to briefly mention why we love Velo de Ville so much. When you buy a Velo de Ville, you are buying a bike that was custom made to our specifications, so it comes with the ideal components. It is made by people in Germany that are treated well, and a company that is committed to community and sustainability. I'll talk more about this in the video, but this isn't just talk. They actually care. They hire people with disabilities and from multiple countries. They work tirelessly with their partners to ensure that they and their partners are reducing emissions, and they are passionate about high-quality e-bikes, and this shows when you ride the bike. So I've given you an overview. Now I'm going to get into the details. You may want to skip over to the ride test and then come back. Let's talk a bit more about folding bikes. A folding bike has obvious benefits. It is compact since it uses 20-inch wheels, but it also folds, making it even smaller. This makes it easy to transport it in your car, RV, boat, or an aircraft. You could also bring it with you on public transit for that last mile on a bus, a train, or even a taxi. Since it doesn't take up as much room as a regular bike, you can easily store it inside at your work or at your house, and that does make it more secure. You can keep it out of the elements. There's also a not so obvious benefit, and that is it will easily fit riders of multiple sizes. So if we get the handlebars all the way down here and the seat all the way down, because it's a step through, really easy to get on and off, and so we can have this bike fitting people that are under 5 feet. But if you're well over 6 feet, we can also adjust it, get the handlebars really nice and high there, get the seat up, and really dial in the fit for you as well. Interestingly, we have a lot of shorter riders that love this bike because they are closer to the ground. It feels easier to manage. The handling is incredible on it. Amazingly, tall riders enjoy it as well. Often, it's the best fitting bike they've ever ridden. And this idea of easier to manage or handle, it's really interesting. A compact bike like this makes it easy to maneuver and get through tight spaces in an urban environment. I'll show you that on the test ride. Not only does it take up less room inside for storage, but it also takes up less room on the road. Plus, these 20-inch wheels, it's really quite interesting. It actually makes it easier to climb hills with the 20-inch wheel in the motor. You actually get more torque from the motor, making it easier to go up the hills. Now, the downside to having the small wheel making it easier to go up the hills is that it's going to be a little bit slower going down hills. But most of our customers find that they're going to use their brakes when they're going down the hills. They're not so worried about it going a little bit slower than, say, a 29-inch wheel. Now, we often get people asking, well, with that little wheel, aren't your legs spinning too much? Doesn't it feel weird to ride? just rides like a regular bike. Again, you'll see that on the ride test. You can skip to if you wish. They've geared it appropriately so that your cadence, your pedaling, is just the same as a regular bike, and you can of course get the same speeds. With the motor you are restricted to it stopping assisting at 32 kilometers an hour, but you can go as fast as you wish. I've hit 60 on mine, and it's a very, very stable, really easy to ride bike, and again, it rides just like a regular bike despite the smaller wheels. Now, I've already touched a little bit on the fact that Velo de Ville prioritized comfort, ease of use, stability, and reliability over size. So it doesn't fold as small, but there's a reason for that. You get all of those benefits. So I've already touched on the fact that Velo de Ville prioritized comfort, ease of use, stability, and reliability over the folding size. And you can see examples of that throughout the bike. For example, with the frame, it's a very low step through, it's very reinforced, and it's a bit of a longer wheelbase. So was it worth making a heavier bike? Well, yes. I mean, it does make it a lot easier to get on and off because it's a step through. It makes stopping a lot more comfortable and safe. That means we can get the seat up to the right height so that you have a full leg extension and your knees aren't getting sore from the seat being too low, because you can safely slide off the saddle and stand without worrying about the crossbar when you are stopping. This very sturdy frame that's really reinforced here and here, and we've got this really cool carrying handle should you need to climb some steps, means that it's very, very stable, especially cornering at high speeds. You'll see that in the video review. In fact, I've done a little bit of mountain biking and lots of off-road riding, and it handles really well. That's unusual for a folding bike. A lot of times in corners at high speeds and challenging riding, it can get a little bit scary, but with the Velo de Ville, it's very, very stable. And so even though that might not be your intended use, it's nice knowing that the bike can handle challenging situations, such as getting forced off the road onto the shoulder in traffic or having to take a detour. And I mention this again because so many folding e-bikes can be twitchy and you really have to focus so you don't lose control of the bike. The Velo de Ville is so comfortable, stable, and relaxing. It's just a real joy to ride. Another example of comfort that I've kind of talked about already is this idea that the handlebars height can be adjusted independently of adjusting the angle. We don't have to worry that if we want the handlebars to be higher, it's going to move the angle of the handlebars. We can easily go up and down. You can see we can actually put it anywhere in between. We just simply open up the clamp here, and that's going to allow us to see if I can do this with one hand while I hold the camera. It's a little bit awkward, but basically, there we go. Open up that clamp. You'll see there's markers there, which is really cool, so you know exactly what height you had it at. Once you're happy with that height, you just close up the clamp again. So it makes it really easy to adjust that. Now in the standard model here, the handlebars are going up and down. On the premium model, we actually can open up the lever, press this little latch here, and twist the bars to be parallel to the bike, like we've done on this one here. Since these bikes were custom made for us in Germany, we got to choose a lot of the specs, so you'll notice that we did a nice swept back handlebar again to make it really comfortable. We've got the ergon grips here, which are fantastic. Again, you can adjust the angle of those. Those are locking grips, but they're really fantastic grips, and of course really comfortable saddles as well. Another example of comfort, but also safety, are the Schwalbe pickup tires. Now, these have the reflective sidewall for safety, which is great. They're highly puncture resistant, which is also great for safety. Interestingly, these were actually made by Schwalbe originally for cargo e-bikes. So heavy duty, highly puncture resistant, last a really long time. But what's really clever about them is you can run them anywhere from 35 to 65 psi. At low tire pressure, they give you loads of traction, lots of comfort. The tires end up acting like suspension for comfort, but all that traction is fantastic. I've ridden these in snow and it works out really well. You move those up to 65 psi, it changes the character of the tire. It's a little bit firmer, a little bit faster rolling, get a little bit more speed, a little bit more efficiency out of them. But it's a nice choice from Velo de Ville. Even though they are a little bit heavier, it does add weight to the bike. Now they're highly puncture resistant. They're going to last a really long time. We might as well do that than have thin tires and thin tubes that you're going to have to replace very frequently. So with the KES or KEB folding e-bikes from Velo de Ville, we're going to use either a Bosch or a Shimano mid-drive motor. So the S in the KES 400 or KES 900 specifies that it's a Shimano motor, with the KES 400 coming with the E6100, which gives you 60 newton meters of torque, and the KES 900 is spec'd with the EP8 motor, which gives us 85 newton meters of torque. And the B in the KEB 800 Smart means that it is the new Bosch Performance Line motor with the Smart system, giving us 75 newton meters of torque. Now, torque is what gets us up the hills, so the more torque you have, the easier it is to climb hills. Now, the great thing about a mid-drive is that the motor is helping you turn the chain instead of simply pushing the rear wheel like a hub motor. That means when you change to an easier gear to climb a hill, the motor is also in an easier gear, making it easier on the hills and also way more efficient. If you think about it, if you drove your car in a single speed, fuel economy is not going to be very good. But by changing gears and the motor being in an easier gear, like a transmission, well, it is a transmission, it does make it very efficient. Since the motor is helping you when you pedal, it's very smooth. Both the Bosch and Shimano systems have a very sensitive torque sensor. That means as soon as you put pressure on the pedals, the assistance is going to start right away. There's no delay. We don't have the need for a throttle because as soon as you push on the pedals, you're going to get the assistance right away. On a lot of folding bikes, they tend to put a throttle and use a hub motor. That's because there's often a delay with the hub motor between when you start pedaling and when the assistance starts. So they put the throttle to make it easier to get going. We don't need that throttle. That's important because there's a lot of places you can't ride e-bikes with throttle, such as national parks. Here in BC, provincial parks, lots of municipalities are saying no e-bikes with throttles. We really try to avoid it if we can. It's a lot safer. It's also nice having that torque sensor not only to help you get started, but also it's a safety feature. So if you're riding along and you accidentally bump the pedals with a torque sensor, it knows you're just bumping the pedals. If you have a cheaper bike with only a cadence sensor, all it knows is you've moved the pedals. It doesn't know how hard, gives you a boost of power, and you could end up, in the trees or on the sidewalk or somewhere you don't want to be because you're getting power when you don't need it. With the mid-drive motor, it's much safer and you get the power only when you want it and in proportion to how hard you pedal, which is fantastic. We also like mid-drive motors because generally they're very reliable. Not only are they safe, of course, but you can get them serviced at almost any bike shop. Pretty much every bike shop deals with Bosch and Shimano. It also means that the batteries are easy to get well into the future, and I love the fact that we're using these externally mounted batteries, whether they be Bosch or Shimano, because they are interchangeable in terms of size. So you can go with on the Shimano a 400, 500, 630. On the Bosch, you've got two different battery sizes as well. So it's really nice that they're interchangeable. And 7 or 8 years from now, should you need a replacement, we know you're going to be able to get them. We're not relying on Velo de Ville to make the batteries for the bike. It's a Bosch or Shimano battery. We know they're going to have them well into the future. So you've made it this far in the video. I'm going to give you a rundown on the different models, but again, you can always skip over to the ride test if you wish. So we've got the KES 400 here in front of us. That gives us that Shimano E6100 motor with the 60 newton meters of torque, and it has a Nexus 8-speed internally geared hub, and you can see that we can control that up here with just this twist shift. Of course, we can shift while we're stopped and while we're pedaling, and we've got 8 gears there. For the display, we have an EOX View 1300, which is pretty cool. It's connected through Bluetooth wirelessly to the drive unit, which is great. That means you can easily remove it if you wish, and it also means that you could ride without the display if you want. We take that off, and there's a little light here that tells you your level of assistance. So yes, the display can show that for us, but also the bike can show that just through the lights on there. You can also pair your phone with the drive unit, and you can also pair your phone with the display and send directions to it. Lots of really cool features on there. We've got trip distance and, of course, all the standard kind of ride things you'd expect to see. One of my favorites is being able to see the temperature, which is actually pretty cool, and you can also pair it with Komoot to show the directions. Here I've got my own KES 900 that I'm going to take you along for the test ride on. It's got the Shimano EP8 motor, and we've upgraded this to a Nexus 5 with electronic shifting, and we've got this nice big display, the ROX 12 from Sigma. We've got offline maps, GPS, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, everything that you need, integration with Strava and Komoot. All the screens are customizable, so you've got your classic bike computer options where you can go through and customize all of the screens. You can see I've got one with maps there, I've got one with the temperature, lots of different options there. The KES series, you've got your choice of batteries, a 418 watt hour, 504 or 630 watt hour battery, and as I mentioned, they're all interchangeable. I'm going to cut over to a video I did at Eurobike for the KEB, since we didn't have it available at the time here, but the KEB 800 Smart uses the Performance Line Smart system, gives you 75 Newton meters of torque, which is great for climbing the hills. And of course the Smart system is the latest from Bosch, which allows for the eBike Flow app to update your bike. You can use a smartphone grip to use your phone as a bike computer, have directions, lots of really cool features. And on the KEB 800 Smart Fold Standard, we go with a 545 watt hour battery, and on the Premium, we're going to go with a 725 watt hour. And this is the KEB 800 Smart Fold. It's very similar to the KES 400 and 900. However, it uses the Bosch Smart system. So we have the Bosch Performance Line motor over here. That's the new Smart System Performance Line motor, so it gives us 75 Newton meters of torque and uses a 545 Bosch Power Pack, or with the premium model you can upgrade to the 745 or 725, sorry. With the Smart System, we do have this handy little remote here that's color-coded to show you the battery level and the level of assistance. And you can connect the Bosch SmartFlow app with it if you wish to use it for navigation and see all of your trip information. In the basic model, you're going to get the Intuvia display, which isn't mounted on this bike yet, and the 545 watt hour battery. With the premium model, you'll get that Gates carbon belt I was talking about, the smartphone grip, instead of the Intuvia display at the top here, which is going to hold your smartphone, charge it, and allow you to use the remote here to control the app, which is pretty cool. We'll also go with the higher capacity battery, and we upgrade the seat and the lights as well. We also go with the Speedlifter Pro, which is going to allow you to twist the handlebars around when you adjust the height, as well like the Speedlifter Classic, but you can also twist the bars with the Pro. Now, I'm going to talk about that internally geared hub in a moment, but it allows us to use either a chain or a belt. On the KEB 800 Standard and the KES 400 and 900, we've gone with the chain, but on the premium versions, we've gone with the belt. Unlike a chain with the belt, you don't have to worry about cleaning and oiling it. And of course, folding a bike with the belt is fantastic because you don't have to worry about grease or oil getting everywhere. The belt also lasts significantly longer than a chain. On the other hand, a chain is lower upfront cost, so it saves you a little bit of money upfront, and it's going to be lower cost to replace it when the time comes to replace it. So the standard versions come with the chain. Of course, the belt is a little bit more expensive up front and to replace, but it's going to last significantly longer than the chain and require significantly less maintenance, no cleaning and oiling. Although with the chain on the Nexus hub here, we don't have it running low to the ground, so it doesn't get as dirty, and we've got the nice chain guard on there as well. Okay, so I've alluded to the transmission a few times here. We do have an internally geared hub. We love having that, especially on a folding bike. There's a number of benefits, one of which, of course, I've mentioned already. The fact that you can shift while you're stopped. So if you're cruising along your top gear, you stop suddenly, forget to downshift, no problem. While we're stopped, go ahead, drop that to maybe 3 or 4. Now it's easy to get started. No problem. As well, we don't have the chain jumping up and down the cassette. There's no derailleur, so there's less adjustments. Your chain's not going to fall off. The chain lasts a lot longer. There's nothing to get bent or banged when you're folding it. And it's a lower cost of ownership because the chain's going to last longer. There's no cassette to replace. You don't have to be bringing it in to get it serviced all the time. It's fantastic. We're going to either go with a 5-speed on the Bosch or the Shimano KES 900, or an 8-speed like we see here on this KES 400. Interestingly, the 5-speed does allow for higher torque, so that's why we're going it with the higher torque motors. It gives you a 263% gear ratio, and it has a little bit of a bigger gap or a bigger jump between the gears than the 8-speed. So it's not necessarily a bad thing having that bigger gap between gears on the Nexus 5-speed, because a lot of times with the 8-speed, if I'm accelerating, for example, I find myself often switching 2 gears at once. So the gaps work quite well on the 5-speed. With the 8-speed, we only put that on the KES 400 because it does have a little bit of a lower torque Shimano motor, but it offers a little bit of a wider gear ratio, 307%, so it's a nice match with the lower torque motor. It gives you a bit of a low gear for climbing hills. But with a 5-speed, it's not quite as low, but you've got the extra torque from the motor, so you'll see in the ride test you don't need that extra lower gear. It's just fine with the motor. And the other thing, of course, that I've kind of mentioned is that with these smaller wheels, you don't need as wide of a gear ratio. The power of the motor is going to be even more effective because of that 20-inch wheel. And I also talked about that gearing earlier. You're not going to be spinning your legs too fast. They've geared everything appropriately, so it's going to ride just like a regular bike. And I've kind of talked about the importance of safety, so we've got the lighting built in running off the main battery. We love this rear light here, the front light. Both of them have side cutout. We've got the reflective sidewalls and the tires, of course, for safety. Hydraulic brakes, of course, which we really want to have from Shimano for really good stopping power. If you go with the premium model, you're actually going to get an integrated brake light, which uses an accelerometer, which is really cool. So as you slow down, it's going to brighten so people know that you're stopping. On the KES, we are able to accommodate a frame lock. This is a lock that puts a steel bar through the rear wheel. Nobody can ride your bike away. There's also a port on this side. The other side is for the key, but this side, there's an optional security chain that plugs right in. The chain doesn't actually have a lock. It uses a lock that's already built into the bike. That's handy because the lock is key-alike to the battery, so we just need one key for the whole bike. Unfortunately, with the KEB, because the Bosch battery tips out instead of slides out like the Shimano, we weren't able to put a frame lock on there. And of course, we've got all the convenience features that you would expect from a German-made or European-made bike. We've got the bell there. We've got nice fenders on there. We've got the rack, so you can do your grocery shopping or bring things to work. We've got a nice kickstand on the other side there that's adjustable, so we can adjust the height as we need to. We've got the chain guard. We've got lots of really nice features to keep you safe and comfortable. Now, I mentioned earlier that we love working with Velo de Ville, and I did a little segment at Eurobike to share more about that, so I'll show that video to you now. I wanted to tell you about why we're so excited to be partnering with Velo de Ville. Originally, we were attracted to the customization that Velo de Ville offers. You can choose not only the colors, you can see lots of different options here, but you can also choose the components. So we know what our customers need. We've listened to their feedback. I'm a rider too. I put thousands of kilometers on my trikes and bikes each year. And so we put together the components that we need for bikes in Canada. Puncture-resistant tires, comfortable ergon grips, reliable maintenance-free drivetrains when we can, and of course, comfortable seats. Interestingly, you probably haven't heard of Velo de Ville. And that's because, in one way, they're really customer-centric. So they actually rely on their customers for their marketing, word of mouth. And it's very similar to what we do. Almost all of our business comes from customers referring their friends to us because they really are happy with our service. And that's the same thing we find with Velo de Ville. Sustainability is really important to Velo de Ville, so the bikes are made by people that are treated well, a company that cares about the community and the environment. When possible, they are using European parts. That results in lower emissions in transportation, but it's also supporting other businesses that care about their employees, about the community, about sustainability. And by caring, I mean they actually do care. 10% of their workforce, for example, are people with disabilities. They have people working from all sorts of different countries in their factory. They really focus on equal opportunity, they promote diversity, and they have zero tolerance for discrimination. They're passionate about striving for perfection, and of course, they're very, very high quality. Let me give you an example, if I can find it here, of the practical ways that they are looking at sustainability. This paint color, for example, is called Eco Gray, and so the idea came about from one of their employees. And this is the great thing when you get your employees actively involved in your business, and you care about them, they care about you, they care about your customers, they care about the product, and so you get this collaboration happening where they said, look, Velo de Ville does all their own painting in-house. At the end of the day, they had leftover paint from overspray, and so what they did is they actually gathered up that extra, turned it into this beautiful eco-gray color. So this is basically the leftover paint from all the different colors makes this beautiful color, and that means there's no waste. They're not throwing out the excess paint. They're able to reuse it in this beautiful color here. Another example of sustainability, we've got these lovely wooden pedals as an option, wooden fenders, wooden grips, and so really, you know, they're very committed to the idea of sustainability. It's not just words. So now that we've looked at all the features of the Velo de Ville, why I love working with them as a company, let's get you out on the test ride. If you'd like to come try it yourself, you need the detailed specs, want us to ship one anywhere in Canada, or just need some further information, you can head over to our website at citruscycles.ca. There you'll find our contact info. You can even book an appointment online to come try it out.
So for the ride test, I'm on the KES 900. Of course, the KES 900, the KES 400, and the KEB 800 are all going to ride very similarly. We've got the same frame, most of the same components. Obviously, I've got a difference in the motor here. This is the Shimano Steps EP8, which is going to give me 85 Newton meters of torque. That's pretty excessive for a bike like this with these small wheels. I really don't need that much power. You'll be fine in most cases with the KES 400, even with the 60 Newton meters. Of course, that KEB 800 with the 75, if you live in a really, really hilly environment, is going to be great for you. But they're going to handle all very similarly. Different display, of course, as well. I do have the electronic shifting on here, but with the KES 400 and the KEB 800, you're going to have the manual twist shift. Still shift while you're stopped, of course, and that low maintenance, so it's fantastic to have. This is a good example of some of the benefits of these kind of compact bikes. Is I've got a bit of a tricky section there and some barriers to get through on the trail here, and it's easy to get around things, no problem. One of the things you notice right away when you ride the KES series from Velo de Ville is it's so incredibly comfortable, and I'm probably going to talk about that a lot in the video, but I can't say it enough. It is a very, very comfortable bike. So you can see I'm in a very upright, relaxed riding position. I like getting the handlebars all the way up so it's nice and high, and it's interesting because I've got lots of really nice bikes. You know, I ride some Riesen Muellers, Super Delight, and Homage, Load, all full suspension bikes. And yet I have a KES. This is in fact my KES 900, and I love riding it. I've done really long rides, you know, some of the 120 kilometer rides on it, and it's just so comfortable. That's all I can say as to why do I keep riding it when I've got all these other great bikes. It's incredibly comfortable. Okay, for the hill test, I'm starting out at a stop partway up the hill, just to show that you don't need a throttle. When we've got the mid-drive motor, you get assistance as soon as you put pressure on the pedals, so we don't need a throttle to get us started. And of course, we don't want to have a throttle if we can avoid it for regulatory reasons. So here I am in boost, I'm in 3, I'll go down to 2, don't even need 1. It's a moderately steep hill, probably 12% or grade or something like that, maybe 14. Yeah, it looks like it's getting up there, but I didn't even need my easiest gear. Managed to maintain a good speed, about 15 up to 20 kilometers an hour towards the end there, and didn't even have to put a lot of work into it. Of course, that's with the higher torque motor. With the 75 or even the 60, you're still going to have lots of power. The small wheel, of course, gives you more power from a motor than a bigger wheel. Now, it does mean I'm going to be a little bit slower going down this hill, but that's okay. Most of our customers aren't wanting to go crazy fast down the hill. I'm actually going to go pretty quick. I'm going to see how well it handles at higher speeds, and also to see how well the brakes work. So I'm up to almost 40 kilometers an hour there. Apply the brakes, no problem, stopping very quickly. Nice and smooth, good amount of modulation, so I don't have to slam on them, grab them too hard to stop. It's a little bit wet, so there's a little bit of squeaking there, which is, you know, pretty normal for hydraulic disc brakes. But yeah, lots of stopping power. The reason I wanted to go fast is a lot of these compact or folding bikes, unfortunately, handle really poorly. And you don't notice that right away. You jump on and, oh, it's fun, it's an electric bike and it's great, and you're just cruising along in the streets. But then you start hitting some speed or hitting some corners, needing to maneuver, and you realize that a lot of these folding bikes just don't handle well. But the KES is the exception. It handles incredibly well. In a little bit, I'm going to take you actually on a little bit of mountain biking trails. It's not really what the bike is designed for, but it just gives you an idea of what it can actually handle. Again, getting around barriers and stuff like this, super easy. There's these big bumps here, but with this suspension C-post, I put the Connect on. It's incredible. It really absorbs all of those bumps for you. And because most of your weight is on the saddle, you really are getting isolated from any rough terrain. It's really very comfortable. In fact, the other day I was riding this bike on the Parkway Trail around Nanaimo. Now it's a paved path, but the roots have started to come up underneath the trail, and so there's a couple sections that it's really rough. And by instinct, because this bike doesn't have suspension, I started, stand up on the pedals to try to cushion the bumps, and I realized I've got the suspension C-post. It's far more effective than my knees and works really well. So really, yeah, the suspension C-post makes a big difference and is well worth it. It makes it just such an incredibly comfortable bike, and that's why I keep riding it. I've done, long 120-kilometer rides on it. You wouldn't do that on a normal folding bike, to be honest. It's just not going to be comfortable. They weren't designed for that. But the KES, really, they focused on comfort and reliability, and it works just so well. Of course, I love having that internally geared hub, not just from a maintenance perspective, but also from a riding perspective. Stop suddenly, you forget the downshift before you stop, no problem. You can shift while you're stopped, which is really one of the great features of the internally geared hub. Now, of course, if I wanted to be in a more aggressive riding position, I can drop the handlebars and lean forward a little bit, change the angle on the stem, but I just love being comfortable like this. I have had some back problems riding in the past, so it's really important to me to make sure that my bike is very comfortable, isn't going to cause those back pains. And that's why I thought, well, thinking of taking this with me on a long bike tour, maybe flying with the bike, shipping the battery, so I want to make sure it's very comfortable for, those 100-kilometer days. And it's been, exceeding my expectations for sure. A little bit of a tricky section with some loose gravel here and some mud and some tight corners, weaving my way through the rocks here. And that's where these Schwalbe pickup tires really shine. They're fantastic. Obviously highly puncture resistant, which is really great to have, but they really enhance the comfort and the handling of the bike. I've been really impressed. If you run them at low pressure, they really act as a suspension in many ways, really cushioning the ride for you, but they still give you lots of grip. And they're just, I've ridden them in the snow. I've ridden this bike everywhere. I've really pushed it a lot to see where can I go with it, what can I do with it. So far, I haven't come across a lot that I can't do. All right, we'll try a different camera angle for a while here. I may have to hold the selfie stick a bit to keep you from bobbing around too much. Fortunately, this is the type of bike you can safely ride with one hand. Of course, we always recommend riding with two hands. One of the appeals, of course, of the KES for me for touring is being able to travel with it, being able to fold it, bringing it on a plane or a train or that sort of thing. But to tour with it, of course, it needs to be comfortable, and it just needs to be type of bike where you can ride around and you're gonna see what's going on around you, right? You're gonna enjoy the view, you're gonna want to stop and check things out, and that's what's so great about the KES being so comfortable is in an upright riding position, is it makes it really easy to just relax and enjoy the sights. So far I've been riding on a lot of the trail here. Hard packed gravel, some loose gravel, a little bit of dirt and mud, and again the tires are handling really well. I'm going to switch over to a little bit of pavement, do some more hills, and I'm going to take you on some crazy stuff that you wouldn't normally do with a compact or folding bike, just to show you that even if that's not what you're planning on doing, it can handle pretty much anything you want to do. And that's the great thing about this bike, because a lot of times a compact or folding bike tends to be a single purpose bike that you're only going to use, say, for commuting or for traveling, putting in your boat or RV. And the nice thing about the KES here is you could actually use it as an everything bike. It's really handy that we've got the rear rack there, so I'm bringing my bags along, of course, with my camera equipment. You can do grocery shopping and whatever you need to do with it. It's really very versatile. Easily able to hit that kind of 30-31 kilometers an hour. That's the maximum speed by law that the motor can assist, and that's in my hardest gear. Got a bit of a hill here, hitting 32, 36, 37. Those speeds I can still keep pedaling in my hardest gear and still provide some input to the bike. When I get to around 40, I typically find at that point I'm better off coasting. The gear ratio isn't wide enough to give me both a really low gear for steep hills and a really high gear to go faster than 40, but for most of our customers on a bike like this, 40 kilometers, you're happy to coast. You don't need to pedal hard and provide more input. Up another steep hill here, so we'll put it up into boost. Go down to an easier gear. Probably won't look like it from the video. We're about 12% grade on that one, up to 14% at the steepest part there. I don't think my slope overlay is working from the GPS. I apologize for that, so I will try to call out the slope every now and then so you can see. It's funny because I can see the camera flopping around a lot. I look down and I go, oh yeah, you know, this is a little bit of a rougher road here, but I'm not feeling it. And part of that is the tires providing suspension, and part of it, of course, is that Connect suspension C-post. Okay, so now I'm going to do some trails again. Not really what the bike was designed for. I'm not sure if the folks at Velo de Ville in Germany are going to watch this and if they're going to send me an email afterwards saying, Kelly, you're absolutely crazy. What are you doing? But I just want to show you, like you can actually do a fair bit with this bike and with these tires. Get your tire pressure nice and low, and that's going to handle this quite well. Lots of grip coming through here. The main concern I have right now is just the camera keeps flopping around, so let me adjust that. Okay, so the bike will be fine, but the camera might fall off. But you can see, we've got some sticks and roots and muck in here, and the tires are performing really well in terms of grip and traction. Probably what I would want to do if I were doing an extended ride on stuff like this is maybe drop the handlebars a little bit so I can get my weight a little bit more over the front wheel to give me more control, which is of course something you'd be doing on a mountain bike, getting yourself low and center of gravity lower. Instead, I've got the handlebars way up here and I'm super relaxed and just riding along, enjoying the scenery. It is beautiful in here. I do have to keep in mind I have kept the the wheels for transporting it when you're folding it, so the transport wheels, are still on. So that means I've got a little bit less ground clearance than it would be if I took that off. So if you were doing this kind of riding frequently on this bike, which would be awesome, you may want to take those transport wheels off, because it's going to give you a little bit more ground clearance. So for example, I'm just going to go around this route here instead of over it, because I might bottom out on the route if I tried to clear it. Hello. Stop there to let somebody by, and of course, again, starting on the middle of a hill on a high level of assistance, no problem, no need for throttle. The assistance comes right away. Another route back there you notice that I dodged, again, was pretty tall. I'd probably bottom out because of those transport wheels, so I might pull those off if I do a lot of this riding. This route will be fine. Yeah, no problem. And I just stayed on the saddle. The suspension seat post helps a lot. So yeah, this is a bit crazy. This is not what the bike was intended for. Probably going to get an email from Germany saying, Kelly, stop encouraging people to do crazy things on their bike. But hey, you want to know that your bike can handle whatever you want. And if you want to come on trails like this, you certainly can. And it's still comfortable, still have lots of control. Let me go back down. That's even more fun. And that is one of the cool things about the e-bike, something Bosch calls their uphill flow. So when I was coming up that hill, it didn't feel like uphill, because of course I've got lots of assistance from the motor to help me out. But it just helps me really enjoy climbing up as much as going down. Again, lots of stopping power with these brakes. I think I'm running my tire pressure a little bit higher than I normally would for a ride like this. I'd probably bring it down right to the minimum. It's going to give you lots of cushion, lots of traction, lots of control, but even at the higher levels like this, having no problems at all. Again, there's that route I just want to keep my eye on that I don't want to bottom out on. It's pretty fun. It's an awesome little bike capable of a lot of different types of terrain. All right, so that's been the Velo de Ville, the KES series. This specifically was the KS 900, but the KES 400, the KEB 800, all good options to consider. You can find all of the details on our website at citracycles.ca. Here's some extended footage for you in case you're fascinated by this little bike like I am. We'll head out of the trail system here soon and onto the road. We'll get some speed up and demonstrate how well it handles at high speeds as well. The maneuverability is quite incredible. It's interesting because it may seem like I'm going on and on a lot about handling, maneuverability, comfort. Shouldn't every bike be like that? But in fact, if you came on any other folding bike on this route, you definitely have some challenges in place. You'd want to be a really skilled and talented rider to do that. I'm just riding it just like a bike, and it's handling it really, really well, and that's unusual for this type of bike. It handles incredibly well. So again, I hit 40 there, and that's when I kind of started coasting, because at that point my legs are spinning too quickly. Cornering there, no problem. If you want to emulate some tricky sections of the trail, you can see it's very, very maneuverable. The thing to keep in mind, like any bike like this, is we do have a little bit of a narrower handlebars, and that small wheel up front, some people will characterize it as twitchy. I guess maybe responsive is the better word. It doesn't take as much effort to turn a little bit as it would on a bike with the larger wheels and wider handlebars. So it only takes a little bit of coaxing to get it to corner. So it just takes a little bit of getting used to at first and not cornering too sharply. So I've got a corner here, and really I just look where I want to go and I get there. You know, if you overthink it, yeah, it could feel a little bit twitchy. But once you get used to it, it's fantastic. And certainly that maneuverability comes in handy in an urban environment where you may have a lot of barriers like you did on the trail earlier in the video, rail crossings, tram crossings, things like that. It's very easy to maneuver. All right, so I'll do a little bit of riding more as the bike was possibly intended. A bit of an urban area here and a cycling path. It's interesting to see sometimes some of the things they do in a cycling path, such as making it kind of twisty and narrow, and again having a nice compact bike that handles so well like the KES here makes it really easy to manage those kinds of things. I've talked a lot about using this as a touring bike, which is one of the things I'm looking forward to doing with it. But obviously, as a commuter bike, as a bike for doing shopping and groceries and that sort of thing, it's fantastic to have this really upright position with a really good view and a lot of visibility for me as a rider as well. I'm visible in the traffic. We've got some great lighting, of course. But I can also see around me really well and be aware of my surroundings, and that's another important thing you want to consider when you're looking at a bike. So it's been a lot of fun riding. I'm going to keep riding. If you want to try it out for yourself, head over to our website at citruscycles.ca.